Bronwyn, and to tell you her birth story. It's funny because we sat here 2 years ago, if you watched Izzy's birth story, and her birth story is nothing like his. Very, very different. In some ways so much better, and in some ways a little bit more complicated. But I'll tell you everything about it. She is so precious. We love her. And Izzy is a really, really good brother. And she's a really mellow baby. Sometimes when she wakes up in her little bassinet, she doesn't even cry. She just lies there and watches and observes and waits for me to come get her. She is the best. I couldn't have asked for a better baby. Especially with Izzy being still 1 year old. And, facing some challenges throughout the day. Are you smiling? I'm also gonna be eating my chocolate, which my husband gifted me. This is the best kind of chocolate I've ever had. He gifted it to me for after the baby was born, and I put it in my hospital bag. But once we were there, we were never able to find it in the pocket, even though I packed it. But, I gave up looking because I was exhausted. So that's what I'm eating. And if you watched Izzy's birth story, you know that he was born at 41 weeks, so 1 week overdue. So we were thinking she might be the same. Baby Bronwyn is currently 1 week old, and I really wanted to film this birth story before I forget the details, because already I feel like my brain is kind of forgetting the details. So I wrote it all down, and I'm gonna tell you everything about it. What a crazy story. So let's rewind. On Sunday, my in-laws arrived. That was already past my due date, and they wanted to come here even earlier on my due date. We keep telling them we don't think the baby's coming, don't worry guys, as they live 5 hours away and plan to stay here for 1 week. And we tell them no signs of labor at all, the baby might just be late, just like Izzy. They come here on a Sunday, and I must have been 40 weeks, 3 days, something like that. And we just wait. We wait around every day. I do my work. I walk the dogs in the yard with Izzy. I go do all my housework. We hang out. Nothing happens. They always ask, how's the baby? How's the baby? Are you having any signs of labor? I say no. Baby is very much comfortable in there. Baby does not want to come out. And I'm thinking, I'll just give myself time until 41 weeks in case she might be born just like Izzy at 41 weeks. But the days go by, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, nothing happens. I get kind of frustrated. We had a prenatal appointment at Tuesday, and they said the baby's doing well. They did schedule me for an induction at 41 weeks plus 1 day. They do usually want to induce you at 41 weeks, but I was able to push it back 1 day just because I really didn't really want the induction. And I pray, please God, let the baby be born naturally. Let the baby decide when she wants to come out by herself. But 41 weeks comes and goes, and no signs of labor. By this time we're on Thursday. So I called the hospital and asked if I could postpone the induction, and they say, okay, you can postpone it to 41 weeks and 3 days. So I do that. And, bless you. Oh, there we go. And that was a Thursday. Thursday, things start to get a little different. Every time I go out into the yard and walk the dogs, I get Braxton Hicks contractions. I can tell they're Braxton Hicks because they're only in the front of my belly and they go away. But every time I exercise, I have them. But this time, on this Thursday, they feel a bit stronger. So as I'm outside walking the dogs, my husband steps out and I tell him, I think the baby might be coming tonight or sometime soon. And he says, okay, good. And I think it's good too, but I was getting a bit nervous. I go through the rest of the day. Nothing happens. Braxton Hicks contractions never pick up. They just go away as soon as I stop exercising. Throughout my whole third trimester, I've had them every single day. As soon as I start walking, they come, and then they go. So I go through the whole Thursday, nothing happens. I go to bed at 10:45. Probably should have gone to bed earlier had I known what's about to happen. But yeah, I go to bed, I sleep for half an hour, and I wake up with contractions. I go get my contraction timer, and at first they're 9 minutes apart. They're pretty strong because, and I can tell by this time they're real contractions because they start to move around the back. Kind of more painful for sure. So I tracked them for a while, and they really quickly start to move closer together. 9 minutes apart. The next one was 8 minutes. Next one was 7 minutes, 6 minutes. And we do live 1 hour away from the hospital. I go and wake up my husband. I mean, he never went to sleep. He never went to sleep, and I talked to him at 12:45. He was actually just about to go to sleep. And I say, we have to go to the hospital. And what does he say? Can't you just hold it in? As kind of like a joke, because he said that with Izzy back then. And we both laughed. And anyways, we get our bags, we wake up the in-laws and tell them it's time to go. And we start driving at 1:11 a.m. By this time it's already Friday, which is the day she's born. I'm 41 weeks and 1 day, and we start driving. My contractions are super painful as soon as I get in that car. And we have to drive for an hour. I'm still timing them the whole time in the car. And I said, wow, this is kind of strange. Bless you. This is really strange. 2 minutes apart, and I had contractions that were like 2 minutes long with no break. I said, this is really getting really strange to my husband. I said, push the baby out, I said a couple times. And he said, just relax. Don't worry, we'll be there so soon. And I was asking, how much longer, how much longer? And as it was like 19 minutes, he would say 15 minutes. And I thought to myself, oh good, that's only like 7 more contractions, I can do that. Oh, I tell you, those contractions, I was thinking, when I get to that hospital, I'm gonna need that epidural. Because my labor with Izzy was 17 hours long. There was no way I was gonna be able to do this for 17 more hours. Because it had only just started. These contractions were so strong. It felt like my body almost had to push in the car. That made me really scared. Considering this was like half an hour into the drive. Oh, that was so scary. But I'm so glad we made it there. My husband parks at the closest spot to the ER entrance. And I just sit there. I just sit there in the car waiting out the contractions because there's no way I'm gonna be able to get up and walk through these contractions. At this point in my brain, I didn't really connect what was happening and how strong these contractions were. So we get in there, we check in, this lady asks questions about, the telephone number and our address and stuff. I get my husband to answer these questions because I can't talk. I'm just standing there kind of leaning over on that counter. And the guy asked me if I need a wheelchair. And stupid me, I say no. Just because sitting sounded so bad. I just sat in that car seat for over 1 hour. Sitting was the last thing I wanted to do. So I thought, I'll just walk. We took the elevator, and then there was this long hallway, I remember. And the guy, he showed us the way, and he was all the way far ahead. And we had to pause like 2-3 times in that walk down the hallway because of my contractions, and I could feel my body trying to push. So I told my husband, no good. And he said, don't be so negative. And my brain couldn't really piece it together for how far along I was in labor. But once they get to that room and they do the cervical check, they must have thought I'm being difficult because we just come in. With Izzy, I was 3 centimeters dilated at this point. But we just come in. I can't even cooperate with them. They said, please get up on the bed. We're going to do the cervical check. And I said, I can't move. I can't move. I just stood there. I said, we have to wait. So we waited out the contractions, and I somehow get my body up there on that bed. They do the cervical check, and the nurses are very, very surprised, and they kind of go into a panic. And she says, the water is bulging, the water is bulging. That's what I remember. Later on, I found out she said that I'm 10 centimeters dilated. And she goes out into the hallway and yells for help. Help, help! She's 10 centimeters. A few other nurses come rushing into the room, and they just put up the railings on this bed and wheel me into the delivery room through the hallway on the bed. They just said, just watch your hands, hold on to this railing. Oh, I was in so much pain. At this point, I didn't actually hear that she ever said, you're 10 centimeters dilated. I just heard, somehow my brain didn't recognize, or I must have been in a contraction and didn't notice what she said. At this point, it's 2:25 a.m. is when they did the cervical check. And they wheeled me into the delivery room. They called an on-call doctor, and thankfully she was able to quickly rush to the hospital and get there in time. They wanted me to transfer to a different bed in the delivery room. My water broke, and it just was a big gush onto the floor, which with Izzy, they had to break my water since I was not progressing at like 6 centimeters dilation. And it was a gush of water. It was a strange feeling. And they try and get me up on the bed. I couldn't move. I just stood there. The water is broken, and then they said, you really have to get onto this bed. And I will myself onto this bed, and I lean over the back of the bed, which they kind of, incline, and I lean over. And the doctor arrives, and my husband's standing there at the top of the bed, squeezing my hand, and at this point, I feel a great peace. I'm so thankful the doctor is there, we're there, the baby's not here yet. And then I feel my body pushing. I can finally let my body push. And shortly after, she was born. She was born within 40 minutes of arriving at the hospital. We got there at 2:25. She was born at 3:04 a.m. on that Friday. What's funny is that I didn't really recognize how far I'm dilated, how quickly this labor is progressing, but I kept asking for the bathtub, which with Izzy, I had the bathtub and it was soothing. And I said, can I get the bathtub? Can I go into the bathtub, please? They said, I don't think there's time for that. And that's when it really clicked in my brain. And then they just got me, those warm cloth to kind of soothe the pain. But I was at great peace. My husband squeezed my hand. I never had to scream. I just let my body do the work. And with Izzy, I screamed the whole time. Every single contraction. I know it's weird, but I had this great peace, which I prayed for. So definitely an answered prayer. And then as they try and coach me through the contractions, this time I didn't do what they told me to. I just straight up didn't do it. I let my body do the pushing. And my husband also gave me advice, don't push more than your body wants, just do it at your own pace. I remember them saying, give a few grunty pushes, kind of forceful. I just didn't do it. And guess what? I didn't tear. With Izzy, I had 2nd-degree tearing. It was quite traumatic. I think that's what made my recovery so difficult. And recovery has been really easy. Like right now, I feel really, really good. I'm 1 week postpartum. I feel like how I felt at 2 months postpartum with Izzy. So I'm really thankful for that. The thing is, because she was born so quickly, literally, it was 3 hours from the moment I noticed my contractions till the second she was born. It was 3 hours, which is really, really fast. I honestly did not expect that at all. So they say that if the baby gets born so quickly, there's more mucus and more liquid inside their lungs and throat. So they kept suctioning the mucus out of her mouth, and they were a little concerned because she didn't immediately cry. She was quite quiet. I said, what's wrong? Why is she so quiet? And I was kind of concerned. I was really glad the birth was over, but I was really concerned for her at this point. And they took her away and suctioned her in that little bassinet in that warmer thing. And that was a lonely, lonely time for me. The doctor delivered the placenta, and they were doing their stuff with her over on the side, and I couldn't see because of the railing of the bed, and I couldn't even see her. So that was really scary for me. And they took her and they measured her oxygen level, and it was kind of on the verge of being too low, they said. So I hated that time. It felt like forever. Even now talking about it is scary. I just wanted her to cry and be okay. So they end up giving her some oxygen on a little mask and to help her with her oxygen level, and then they keep suctioning out the mucus out of her mouth. My husband's able to walk over and look at her, and I said, "What's wrong with her? What's wrong with her?" And he said, all he said was, "I think she's okay. I think she's okay." But they decide to bring her back and lay her on my chest, and immediately she cries. So that's a good thing. And then they let me have her for a bit. And she's so precious. So precious, I thought. Don't worry, this is a positive birth story. It was just really scary for me in that moment. Then they took her away again to weigh her. She was 7 pounds 11 ounces. So bigger than Izzy. He was 7 pounds 1 ounce. What happens is that they took her away to the nursery. They said she might be on oxygen for half a day. And I was able to calm down and just have them take her away. And they gave her oxygen, and then later throughout the day they slowly weaned her off oxygen, and she did really well. She slowly adjusted to keeping her oxygen levels high as they turned down the intensity of how much oxygen they give her. And then they weaned her off of it, and she was able to come to our room. Later that day, it was about 1 p.m., and I was finally able to nurse her. We tried to sleep, but my husband did sleep in the room, but I woke up. I could only sleep half an hour, and I went to the nursery where they gave her the oxygen, and I carried her. They let me carry her on my chest, skin to skin, and that was the best thing. Even though I couldn't nurse her because they don't let you nurse because of the oxygen, and they're scared that the milk will go into their lungs. So, yeah, everything worked out well. She was able to join us in the room. We are discharged the next day. We stay one more night, and she did really well. Ever since, we haven't had any issues. She was just born so quickly. They said she didn't have time to adjust. It was kind of like a shock for the baby, and the liquid didn't squeeze out of the lungs as she, moving slowly through the birth canal. She didn't really have time to do that, and so she was born in a shock, kind of. Definitely my labor is definitely an answered prayer. I had my natural birth. I didn't need any medication, any of their pain management. In fact, the doctor, when she came in, and I was so at peace and so quietly pushing, just focused on the contractions and pushing the baby out and letting my body do the work. She asked the nurses if I had any pain management, and she was really surprised when they said no. They just got here. They literally got here like 20 minutes ago, and this is how it's been going. She's been 10 centimeters dilated. Honestly, at that point, there's no real time to get an epidural or anything, even though they did ask me if I want the laughing gas. But I was at great peace. And it's interesting how we really need our spouses in childbirth. I remember this one moment that my husband stepped away for like half a minute to blow his nose in the bathroom. Oh, I hated that. I really needed him there, and really thankful for him. He coached me through that tough time. We didn't really have a name at first. And all the nurses always ask us, what's her name? What's her name? And we said we haven't really decided yet. Just like with Izzy, our babies kind of get their name on the day that we leave. But we were able to finalize it and name her Bronwyn, and very happy with the name. It really fits her. Nursing has been going well. My afterbirth contractions were much worse this time, but they're gone now, so I'm really thankful for that. And yeah, we're just at home adjusting to our new life. 2 under 2 is definitely not for the weak. Izzy loves her. We all adore her. So yeah, there you have it. I guess the takeaway is that your second birth can be very, very different from your first birth. And make sure you got gas in your car. And make sure to leave on time to the hospital. Yeah, God answers your prayers. Lean on God during childbirth, and you can do it. Even without epidural, even without pain management, you can do it. Your body is meant to do it. I encourage you to try it out. I think it's the best thing you could ever do. It's such an empowering feeling. And I thank you for watching our birth story, and I can't wait to share more of baby Bronwyn and Izzy on my channel.